The Iranian regime swiftly retaliated after the Trump administration attacked on February 28th, hitting dozens of targets across U.S. military bases in 7 Middle East countries. Those attacks struck warehouses, command headquarters, aircraft hangars, satellite communications infrastructure, runways, high-end radar systems, and dozens of aircraft, according to the U.S. officials, and an assessment by the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative think tank in Washington, D.C.
So Hasan Piker just exposed the biggest military disaster Trump never told you about. Iran's devastating strikes on U.S. bases that caused $5 billion in damage. We're talking about a complete media blackout while American infrastructure got obliterated. This breakdown reveals everything they tried to hide.
According to American Enterprise Institute's assessment, Iran hit more than 100 targets across 11 bases in 7 Gulf countries. Those attacks fell on U.S. and host nation bases in Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia.
The American Enterprise Institute isn't some leftist think tank. They're neoconservative hawks who've pushed every Middle East intervention. When even AEI admits Iran hit over 100 targets across 7 countries, you know the damage was catastrophic. This represents the largest coordinated strike on U.S. forces since Pearl Harbor.
The headquarters building for the U.S. Navy in Bahrain, the nerve center of the Navy's operations in the region, sustained serious damage, the official said.
Bahrain hosts the 5th Fleet, America's entire naval command for the Persian Gulf, where 40% of global oil shipments pass through. Hitting that nerve center wasn't symbolic. It demonstrated Iran could paralyze U.S. operations, protecting the world's most critical energy choke point whenever they choose.
Al Udeid Air Base is the airbase for CENTCOM, Central Command.
Al Udeid runs everything from Afghanistan to Somalia, CENTCOM's forward headquarters covering the entire Middle East theater. Iran proved they could blind America's command structure across 20 countries simultaneously. That's not just tactical damage. That's strategic humiliation, exposing our entire regional posture as vulnerable.
The reason why this is unique for some, maybe not interesting or unique for you, is because there was no information. There was an informational blackout in the GCC.
The Gulf Cooperation Council imposed total information lockdown because they knew this exposed their own weakness too. These supposed allies helped cover up American military failures to protect their own legitimacy. When your partners are censoring reality to save face, you've lost control of the narrative completely.
People were literally being thrown in prison. There are still people in prison, including a friend of mine that I talked about as well, who just got released, as a matter of fact. He's an Al Jazeera reporter.
Imprisoning journalists covering military strikes reveals desperation. These regimes knew the footage would humiliate both them and Washington. An Al Jazeera reporter doing basic journalism gets thrown in prison while billions in American hardware burns. That's how badly this shattered the illusion of invincibility.
The Planet Lab satellite imagery was frozen from the region, so we couldn't see the extensive damage. And yet we still knew, but most Americans were completely oblivious.
Planet Labs provides independent satellite imagery that's exposed war crimes worldwide. Freezing their feeds suggests coordination between tech companies and intelligence agencies to suppress evidence. When private satellite data gets mysteriously unavailable during military disasters, that's not coincidence, that's damage control.
Eaglin's cost estimate for repairing the infrastructure is more than $5 billion. Oh my lord.
But $5 billion equals the entire GDP of Montenegro. That's more than NASA's annual budget just to repair what Iran destroyed in one night. This proves our forward-deployed infrastructure is impossibly expensive to maintain and replace when adversaries can precision strike it at will.
If they're reporting that there was extensive damage, that means it's over. It's done.
Military officials always minimize damage in public statements. Light damage means total loss. Minor setbacks mean operational failure. The Pentagon learned this language during Vietnam when body counts became politically toxic. If they're admitting extensive damage, the reality was complete devastation.
It was obliterated, right? It was just obliterated. Whenever these guys talk about like lightly damaged, dinged, it just means it's over.
Each AWACS costs $800 million and takes years to build. These aren't just aircraft, they're flying command centers that coordinate entire air campaigns. Losing multiple AWACS means losing the ability to manage complex operations across the region for potentially years.
Many U.S. military bases, there are nearly 800 around the world that we know of, are sitting ducks. That's one lesson to draw from this current war, a lesson that won't be lost on other USA adversaries.
America operates more overseas bases than the next 10 countries combined. But this attack proved forward deployment creates vulnerability, not strength. China, Russia, and North Korea are studying these strikes, mapping every weakness Iran exposed across our 800-base global network.
All of the countries that are aligned with the United States of America that is supposed to encircle China in this Cold War that we're waging against China, our number one foreign adversary, are looking to Trump to be like, dude, fix the situation, please.
The entire Asia-Pacific strategy depends on allies believing America can protect them from China. After watching Iran cripple U.S. forces with conventional missiles, South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan are questioning whether American security guarantees mean anything when push comes to shove.
This also clears something up, specifically in Kuwait, where the Kuwaiti Air Force pilot shooting down American fighter jets makes a little bit more sense now, because it was just like, what the did this guy just go rogue or something? Well, it turns out he might have accidentally thought that it was Iranian fighter jets or something. And then the Ghost of Kuwait took out 3 American fighter jets thinking it was an Iranian fighter jet, potentially.
Friendly fire incidents spike when command and control systems break down. A Kuwaiti pilot shooting down 3 American jets suggests total communication failure during the crisis. That's not pilot error. That's systemic breakdown when ally coordination collapses under pressure.
Donald Trump did the classic thing that you do when you have all the leverage, okay?
Trump assumed overwhelming military superiority would force immediate Iranian submission. Instead, Iran's response revealed that America's technological edge means nothing when adversaries can strike our fixed infrastructure faster than we can defend it. The leverage calculation was completely backward.
So he chose to pull back as though there was any sort of ceasefire talks on the table. It's very obvious that Iran is not going to play ball until America abides by some of the initial demands that Iran had made and the American blockade on top of the Iranian blockade. If they don't do that, then there's no good faith negotiations that can take place.
Iran's negotiating position strengthened dramatically after proving they could paralyze U.S. operations at will. Why would they accept unfavorable terms when they've demonstrated the ability to inflict billions in damage whenever sanctions tighten? Success breeds confidence, not compromise.
The erroneous news reports indicating that the U.S. and Iran would be restarting talks were produced because Pakistan's ISPR sent the following incorrect update to many journalists. They didn't send it directly to me, but I was forwarded it.
Pakistan's military public relations wing leaked sensitive diplomatic communications during Xi Jinping's visit, creating chaos when precision matters most. These aren't seasoned diplomats. They're inexperienced players accidentally sabotaging delicate negotiations with sloppy information management.
Pakistan is in a unique situation because it is at the epicenter of the Cold War between China and the United States of America.
Pakistan owes China $62 billion through Belt and Road while hosting American drone operations. They're economically dependent on Beijing, but militarily tied to Washington. An impossible position that breeds diplomatic incompetence when they're forced to choose sides.
These are not mistakes that Oman would make. These are not mistakes that Turkey would make. These are not mistakes that countries that have had to deal with stuff like this would make.
Oman successfully mediated nuclear talks for years without a single leak. Turkey manages complex relationships with Russia, Iran, and NATO simultaneously. Pakistan's amateur-hour diplomacy proves why experienced intermediaries are irreplaceable when miscommunication can trigger wars.